Beneath the cold, deep waters, millions of king crabs and lobsters thrive, hiding among rocky crevices and thick layers of sand. They are not only prize creatures but also symbols of wealth and culinary experience, admired by chefs everywhere. But to bring these royal seafood treasures from the ocean floor to the dining table, fishermen must battle towering waves, fierce winds, freezing ice, and endless days at sea. In fact, commercial fishing is considered one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, with risk levels even higher than offshore oil drilling or search and rescue missions. First, we'll step into the journey of king crab fishing in the frigid deep waters of the Bering Sea, off the coast of Alaska and the Aleutian Islands, where water temperatures can drop below 35 degrees Fahrenheit and waves can tower between 20 and 26 feet high. The king crab season usually runs from mid-October to late January, lasting only a few short weeks. Yet it's a crucial window that supplies thousands of tons of crab to markets all around the world. Before setting out on their long voyages at sea, fishermen prepare massive steel vessels stretching dozens of meters. Outfitted with modern hydraulic systems, GPS satellite navigation, and crab finding sonar to boost their chances of a big catch. Each trip can carry between 150 to 300 crab pots made of metal or steel mesh, with each pot weighing around 600 to 800 pounds. To haul in a full pot of king crab, they use massive metal pots baited with salmon, herring, or fish scraps, dropping into the ocean floor 400 to 500 feet below. Each pot is carefully marked with buoys so fishermen can easily locate them when it's time to haul in the catch. The pots are usually soaked in water for 1 to 2 days, just enough time for the crabs to find the bait and crawl inside. After that, fishermen use hydraulic winches to haul them back up. This process demands both skill and strength, as each pot filled with crab can weigh well over 800 pounds. Once the pots are hauled aboard, the crew immediately sorts through the catch. Any crabs that are undersized, smaller than the minimum 6.5 inch shell size, or females carrying eggs are released back into the sea under Alaska's strict conservation laws. On average, a single trip can bring in anywhere from 3 to 5 tons of fresh king crab, depending on sea conditions. After sorting, the crabs are placed into chilled seawater tanks with circulating pumps. This keeps them alive and healthy for days at sea, ensuring peak freshness by the time the boat docks. It's a crucial step in preserving their market value, since only live crabs command top prices from high-end restaurants. Despite the dangers, Alaska's king crab industry carries some enormous economic value. In 2023, the US consumed roughly 30,000 tons of king crab, mostly in coastal states and major seafood restaurant chains. Prices average between $25 and $35 per pound, depending on size and freshness. And in premium seafood markets, a single pound could fetch as much as $50. Alaska isn't the only place known for king crab though. In Japan, it's considered a luxury delicacy, often featured at lavish banquets or winter food festivals. The Japanese prefer it served live or simply steamed to preserve its natural sweetness. Demand for imports from the US, Russia, and Norway remains consistently high. Fishermen often work 18 to 20 hours a day just to keep up with the catch. Sudden storms can damage the pots or force boats to return to shore early. And at times, the harvest can fall short of expectations, sometimes even pulling up empty pots due to harsh weather or shifting ocean conditions. That's why king crab fishing is regarded as one of the most dangerous jobs in the world, yet also one of the most profitable in the entire seafood industry. Beyond king crab, lobster is also amongst the most sought after seafood in the world. Prized for its firm, white meat and distinctive flavour, our next journey takes us to the state of Maine, in the northeastern United States, widely known as the lobster capital of the world. Each year, these frigid waters yield tens of thousands of tons of lobster, accounting for 80 to 85% of the US's total lobster harvest, making it a cornerstone industry for the region. The lobster season in Maine begins on the last Monday of November each year and runs through to May the following year, depending on weather conditions and state regulations. To catch high-quality lobsters, fishermen prepare traps, usually rectangular wooden or wire mesh cages around 3 feet long, wrapped in durable, plastic-coated netting to withstand the pressure and harsh conditions of the ocean floor. Inside the trap, fishermen place bait such as herring, mackerel, or other dead fish, a scent lobsters can't resist. The traps are cleverly designed with multiple chambers and one-way entrances, allowing lobsters to crawl in easily but making it nearly impossible for them to escape. This ensures each trip out to sea is as productive as possible. When setting the traps, every detail has to be precise. Each trap is securely tied to a long rope, then dropped to the lobster grounds, ranging from shallow waters of just a few feet to depths of 65 to 200 feet. Every trap is marked with a floating buoy on the surface, making it easier to locate later. Once dropped into the water, the traps are usually soaked for 2 to 3 days, giving lobsters time to be drawn in by the scent of the bait and crawl inside. However, this timing isn't fixed. Fishermen adjust it depending on weather, breeding season, and lobster density in the fishing grounds. When it's time to harvest, fishermen haul up the traps using specialized hydraulic winches. Each trap can hold anywhere from a few to several dozen lobsters, sometimes along with crabs, bottom fish, or other sea creatures. Right on the boat, fishermen sort the lobsters. Using a special metal gauge, they measure the carapace length, and only those 3.25 inches or larger are kept. Undersized lobsters or egg-bearing females are marked by notching their tails and then released back into the sea to help conserve the population. To keep the lobsters from clawing each other during storage, fishermen secure their claws with special rubber bands. They are then placed into chilled seawater holding tanks on the boat, ensuring they stay alive and fresh until the vessel returns to port or the catch is shipped to market. Just like king crab, the US lobster industry, especially in Maine and New England, faces serious challenges that have caused declining harvests. Rising ocean temperatures affect lobster growth and breeding seasons. Powerful storms and rough seas damage traps and boats, and lobster diseases have led to the loss of many market-sized lobsters. Lobster landings in Maine have dropped significantly in recent years. In 2021, fishermen harvested around 110 million pounds. By 2023, that number had fallen to 93 million pounds, a decline of roughly 15%. However, with fewer lobsters on the market, average prices climbed from $10 to $12 per pound or $13 to $15 a pound. To protect this resource, Americans have implemented a range of measures. They limit the number of traps and set strict seasons so young lobsters have time to mature, use escape vents in traps to allow undersized lobsters to slip out, and rely on precise weather tracking to reduce risks at sea. Thanks to these efforts, even with fluctuating harvests, the US lobster industry still supplies around 60,000 to 70,000 tons annually to meet market demand. Did you know that nearly 24,000 fishermen around the world die on fishing boats each year? This number is 10 times higher than in commercial shipping and passenger transport, making fishing one of the most dangerous jobs on the planet. However, despite the rough seas and lurking dangers, brave fishermen still go out to sea day and night, bringing back millions of tons of fresh seafood. In today's video, we will go to the largest fishing grounds in the world to discover how humans conquered the sea. First, let's start with a familiar seafood that has immense commercial value: shrimp. More than 5 billion shrimp are consumed each year, and in 2024 alone, the global shrimp market reached a volume of 8.08 million tons. The US is currently one of the top 3 shrimp markets in the world by value. In Louisiana, shrimp are mainly caught by trawling. The boat moves at a slow speed at around 1.7 to 2.3 miles per hour, dragging a net along the seabed. The shrimp that come into contact with the net are gathered up. When the trawling time is over, the fishermen slowly retrieve the net, pulling in the lines, the net doors, and finally the entire heavy catch. Right on the boat, the shrimp are sorted and pre-processed to maintain their freshness. However, catching shrimp by trawling is controversial. These nets not only catch shrimp, but many other creatures. Most of these creatures are often dead or dying and are thrown back into the sea after being brought on board. Statistics show that for every pound of shrimp harvested, more than 4 pounds of non-target marine life are discarded, leading to waste and ecological imbalance. Despite this, in many fishing grounds, this method remains popular due to its high productivity. Meanwhile, in the Mekong Delta area of Vietnam, many fishermen still maintain traditional fishing methods in coastal areas such as lagoons, ponds, and shrimp farms. They wade into the mud, deep under the mud layer, to catch each shrimp by hand. People here often invite friends or family members to go shrimping together, making the work process much more enjoyable. In some localities, this activity has even become a festival, where people wade into the mud together to catch shrimp and fish in a bustling atmosphere. Although this method is time-consuming and labour-intensive, it is safer than fishing at sea, and it is environmentally friendly too, maintaining the natural balance of the coastal ecosystem. Our next destination is Indonesia, where squid fishing has become the livelihood for thousands of coastal families. Squid often appear near piers, docks, or areas with a lot of seaweed and sea grass. They are especially attracted to light, so fishing trips only take place after dark. On a commercial scale, most of the squid in Indonesia is harvested using an automatic system. Fishermen here use artificial lures that look like baby squid and other marine creatures to attract squid. The squid traps are strung together along a line and then dropped into the sea. When night falls, the boat turns on its high-powered LED lighting system, luring the squid to swim and then biting the traps hanging in the water column. Immediately after, the spinning reels on the boat continuously pull the squid up. Fishermen on the boat just have to harvest and put the squid into storage baskets. Thanks to this system, they can catch more squid and reduce manual labour compared to traditional fishing methods. However, squid production in many areas of Indonesia is declining. Many fishermen believe that the main cause comes from tin mining activities, along with unpredictable weather. On average, Indonesia is hit by around 10 tropical storms each year, which directly affect the fishing industry. In addition, in recent years, the selling price of squid has not been very high, only around $10 for every 4 pounds. This is not enough to cover the operating costs of the boat. As a result, many boat owners often suffer losses, forcing them to borrow money to have capital to go out to sea the next day. When seafood becomes scarce in local waters, they are forced to venture further east. These trips often take place in groups of 20 to 30 boats. Travelling in a team not only helps them increase their chances of finding a large school of squid, but it is also a safety measure. If a boat has an engine problem, there will always be another boat nearby to provide some timely assistance, helping everyone to return safely. Leaving the tropical waters of Indonesia, we continue our journey to the southern US, to the state of Louisiana, which is famous for its crawfish. With more than 1,000 fishermen and over 1,300 crawfish farmers, Louisiana leads production in the US of this shrimp. This industry brings in more than $300 million to the state economy each year. Crawfish in Louisiana are usually caught in spring and summer. Fishermen use steel mesh traps placed in areas with many red crawfish, such as drainage canals, flooded marshes, or rice fields. Sometimes they also use dip nets to harvest faster. The traps are checked regularly, almost every day, to harvest as many crawfish as possible. As soon as the crawfish are caught, the clock starts ticking. If left out in the sun for too long, the high temperature can kill the crawfish, causing the meat to become mushy, lose its flavour, and be inedible. Therefore, in the summer, fishermen have to put them in cold storage within 3 hours and sell them quickly. Every year, Louisiana supplies around 100 to 120 million pounds of crawfish. Unfortunately, in the 2024 season, the state's crawfish production decreased by 90% due to the effects of extreme weather. In 2023, drought and heat waves killed crawfish in large numbers. In 2024, a cold spell and late rains forced many farmers to abandon their crops. It is estimated that the state needs around 1.5 billion pounds of adult crawfish to restore its lost population. This disaster is expected to affect many subsequent seasons, threatening the livelihoods of thousands of families. Our next destination is Alaska. The fishing industry plays an important role in the local economy, accounting for nearly half of the private sector jobs in the state. Among them, salmon is the pride of Alaska. The last frontier state provides up to 95% of the salmon production for the entire US. The fishing season begins when schools of salmon gather near estuaries, preparing their upstream spawning journey. The most common method of catching salmon in Alaska today is seine netting. The boat quickly pulls the net to surround the schools of fish, and it only takes around 10 to 20 minutes to complete, depending on the weather and the size of the school. When the net is closed, fishermen pull the ropes at the bottom to block the escape route, then work together to bring the catch of salmon onto the boat. Thanks to this method, in just one trip out to sea, they can harvest tons of salmon. After the net is pulled onto the boat, the salmon are put into cold seawater tanks or ice tanks to maintain absolute freshness before docking. However, the commercial salmon fishing industry is not for the faint of heart. Not everyone has the strength to pull nets weighing hundreds of pounds, especially on stormy days with big waves and strong winds. This job becomes even more difficult in winter, when the temperature at sea is extremely low, only around 41 to negative 28.4 degrees Fahrenheit. Fishermen not only have to endure the biting cold, but also have to move carefully on the frozen deck. Every year, the number of deaths from fishing accounts for about 1/3 of all occupational deaths in Alaska. Leaving icy Alaska, we will go to warmer waters to see how fishermen catch tuna. This is one of the most expensive seafoods in the world, nicknamed the blue gold of the ocean, with a selling price that can reach $40 per pound. In 2024, global tuna production is estimated to reach around 6.88 million tons. Tuna are harvested using various methods, from automatic longlines to seine nets. However, the traditional method that is still favoured by many fishermen is rod and reel fishing. With this method, they often attach artificial lures to the fishing rod so that they can fish continuously. Fishermen stand or sit on the side of the boat, cast their rods, and use their strength to pull the fish up as soon as they bite. Then the tuna are thrown directly into the boat's hold. The fishermen continue to work until they reach the desired catch. This seemingly simple job requires persistence, as the fisherman has to stay in the same position for hours, repeating the same action in the sun, wind, and waves. But in return, the income from this job is rather attractive. In the US, the average annual salary of a tuna fisherman can be as high as $85,000. After many hours at sea, the boat docks. The tuna are sold at large fish markets or transferred to processing plants. Here they are cut, filleted, packaged or processed into products such as canned tuna, frozen fillets and more. From the cold waters of Alaska to the lagoons of the Mekong Delta of Vietnam, each catch of shrimp, squid or fish is the result of the resilience and efforts of fishermen. But besides the economic value, the sustainability of fishing is also something that cannot be ignored. What do you think? Should we prioritize modern technology to meet global demand or preserve traditional methods for the environment and future generations? Please share your opinion in the comments section below. Today's video ends here. Thanks for watching. Goodbye and see you in the next video on our channel.